Greetings, everyone. So today on the Toxic Takedown, I wanted to weigh in on a subject that I've been seeing making the rounds in the MCU fandom circles ever since Avengers Endgame came out. Namely, to do with the introduction of this fellow. Yes, after all the anticipation for Hulk to come back after being, kind of set aside in Infinity War, fans were like really eager for Hulk to come back and kick some butt. And instead we got Professor Hulk? What's going on there? So, needless to say, there's a lot of wrong information being thrown into the mix. Let's start off with a little clip that was tossed my way from TikTok, featuring TikTok content creator The Cuban Crusher, giving his thoughts on the current status of the Hulk.
They don't care about Hulk. They don't care about his actual fucking character. Listen, I want Hulk to return to being actual Hulk if they do a World War Hulk, but I just have little faith.
Okay, where do I even begin here? The frustrating part of this, as a huge Hulk fan myself, is seeing how common that take is. That is a horrible take on what's going on here. Now, as for World War Hulk, that's not even on the slate right now, so I don't know where people are getting that World War Hulk is happening. Originally, the comic World War Hulk was a direct sequel to the events of Planet Hulk, and, well, we kind of already had Planet Hulk done in truncated and heavily altered form in Thor Ragnarok. So without that as the sort of impetus that sets off World War Hulk, I don't know how they can do it. Well, actually, I do have some ideas of how they can do it, but maybe we'll cover that in another video. So anyway, regarding Professor Hulk. Professor Hulk is straight out of the comics. So saying that Marvel doesn't understand their own character is freaking ridiculous. This is not something that they just came up with to nerf the Hulk or emasculate him or, weaken him or whatever. No, this is just touching on another aspect of the Hulk from the comics that, well, fans of the comics have seen. In fact, Professor Hulk was the creation of Peter David, who was the main writer on the Incredible Hulk comics for no less than 12 years, and is considered by Hulk fans to be one of the all-time great writers who did some of the all-time great stories. One of which was Professor Hulk. So this is just another iteration of the Hulk from over the years, and quite frankly, a fan favorite for longtime fans of the comics. So the other day on my live stream on Twitch, I touched on this subject a little bit, and I was just going to kind of reiterate everything that I said, and I thought, well, why don't I just show you the clip? It's a lot easier that way. So what I was talking about was how I feel like the MCU has really got the balance right between humorous stories and scenes and moments and whatnot, and action and heavy emotional scenes and stories and so forth. You get a little bit of something for everybody in the MCU. It seems to me like a lot of the backlash whenever they do a big change like this with one of the characters is simply because people are not familiar with the source material. A lot of people just watch the movies or just watch the shows and don't read the comics, so they're not familiar with this, so they know one version of the character. In this case, most people know the Savage Hulk. That's sort of the more commonly known version, and they may not be familiar with all those other storylines where Banner put his mind into the body of the Hulk. Well, suffice it to say, there's been a lot of them over the years, and the whole Professor Hulk one, as written by Peter David, is considered by fans to be one of the all-time great versions of that kind of storyline. Anyway, let's take a look at that stream clip, and then I'll come back on afterwards for a few additional thoughts. That's why it's kind of disheartening when you see some of the naysayers and the haters and whatnot just taking it way too seriously. It's like you're kind of missing the point here. What Marvel's supposed to be? It's supposed to be about having fun. Yeah, there's serious galaxy-changing events and like deep, powerful, emotional moments and traumatic things for the characters, but that's because they're more human. They're more human. They're more relatable, so they have human issues, human foibles, human problems. They're not perfect, just like we are, or we aren't, rather. Just like regular folks. They have their problems too, and that's what makes them more relatable. And that's why I guess people get so passionate about it, is because they get a certain idea in their head of what a character should be, and some people can't face certain types of conflict or issues from their heroes. They want to put their heroes on pedestals and look up to them and admire them and aspire to be them in some way. So when they see their heroes having problems and conflicts of a more deeply personal nature, sometimes they can't handle that. It's holding up too accurate of a mirror to themselves, I think, and they can't reconcile that. So, like for example, Hulk is a good example of that recently, is with the whole Professor Hulk thing. A lot of people just want to see Savage Hulk because it's a power thing for them. It's like Hulk is cutting loose and letting out that anger, letting out that rage the way we all wish we could, but we can't in polite society. So we just kind of have to bottle up our frustrations and let the beast within seethe without having the opportunity to unleash it, per se, in a healthy way, obviously. But with Hulk, he doesn't have that limitation. He changes into the Hulk and just cuts loose and starts smashing everything in sight. It's very cathartic. So I think for a lot of people, that's what Hulk is to them, is the release of that inner rage. So when they switch things up and changed it to Professor Hulk, they see it as, they've nerfed the Hulk. They've gone against the character of the Hulk. No, they haven't, actually. They've gone against what the character meant to you, personally. But if you read the comics, there's been numerous storylines over the years where Banner has put his mind into the body of the Hulk. That's how he's temporarily been able to reconcile the two halves of himself. I mean, it's an ongoing story of the classic conflict of man versus himself. And it's great. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it, is because it really gets deep into the psychology of it and the inner conflict, and that's what makes it interesting. What makes it interesting is not Hulk smash. What makes it interesting is the inner conflict between Banner and Hulk. That's what keeps readers coming back. That's what keeps viewers coming back, seeing that struggle, as we kind of equate it to our own personal struggles and our own inner demons that we battle with every day. Everybody's got their own. And it's a way of kind of putting that in a very literal sense on the screen and in the stories. But so with Professor Hulk, maybe that's the key. It is a lot of people who, for whom Hulk resonates in that way. They don't like the Professor Hulk storyline because it presents a nice, tidy resolution to that inner conflict. And we all know life ain't that easy. But see, that's the interesting thing about Hulk, is in the comics, whenever they've done that, it almost always fails eventually. There comes a point where something happens and Banner reverts back to Banner and Savage Hulk, and the conflict begins anew. So anytime he manages to reconcile the two, it's always temporary. It never lasts, because it can't, because life isn't like that. The way life is we have these temporary moments of reprieve that we enjoy while we are at peace and while we have balance. But eventually, whether it be a trigger or a new trauma or something happens, because that's the way life is, and then we have to deal with that. And that's what the Hulk is. The Hulk is a fantastical representation of that ongoing conflict in life that we all go through. So for all the naysayers who were saying that Professor Hulk is nerfing the Hulk, it isn't. It's just representing that part of the journey of life. In this case, the life of Banner, and his ongoing attempts to reconcile the two very deeply conflicting halves of himself. And that to me is interesting. I like that. More, please. And there you go. Hulk is life. Yeah, so, I mean, to all those people that kind of subscribe to those bad takes and are kind of, or just scratching their heads as to why Marvel went in this direction, you know, you're watching these videos on the internet, which means you have access to the internet. Just read a Wikipedia article, for crying out loud, or go to marvel.com where you can literally pull up the entire history of any character you want. So, you want to find out about Professor Hulk? Go to Marvel. Find out from the source. You can find out the whole story and probably get lots of examples of other times that similar storylines have occurred. But as I said in that stream clip, I mean, this type of thing is always temporary in the Hulk. We get back to Savage Hulk before you know it. Now, in this case, if they're planning some kind of World War Hulk thing, great. I'm all for it. That's a great storyline. It's one of the recent, classic stories. And I'd love to see it brought to life on the screen in some way, especially since it involved all the Marvel heroes. And we're getting a lot of additional Marvel heroes from the Fox buyout brought into the MCU. I mean, we got Secret Wars on the way in a couple of years, so why not go into World War Hulk after Secret Wars or something? I don't know. There's any number of ways they could do it. I've got a few ideas that maybe we'll touch on in a future video, but just for fun, you know. But in the meantime, don't worry about Professor Hulk. Just, let Banner have his happy time for a little bit, and we'll get back to Hulk smash before you know it. Alrighty, that's it for this one, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to hit thanks if you'd like to support the show. Leave a comment about any other topics you might like me to cover. And I'll see you next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.